Well, Michael, we have seen the entire lower half of Manhattan just completely covered in smoke, debris, dust. Everything well south of Canal Street is just completely and covered in this smoke and dust at this time. There is not anything recognizable of what were the two trade towers. Nothing standing out from those clouds of dust at this time.
My goodness.
We understand the schools in the area reporting that the children were there. At last report, the children were safe. They're saying that the parents, if you can get there, and in this, frankly, it'd be quite difficult. The schools are under a lockdown. The children are not allowed to leave unless the parents come to get them. But we have heard word that the children are okay. The casualties here are far, we don't even want to speculate.
No,
we do have reporters at St. Vincent's, at Bellevue, throughout the city, crews throughout the city. We know that you're worried about your loved ones down there. This is the financial district of the world, and clearly untold number of people that are down there right now. And this is as close as we can get to the scene. Jim Smith, you're about, what, 5 miles?
Yeah, that's right, Michael. We're about 5 to 6 miles away. We've been forced to move to Staten Island at this point to bring you these pictures. And we understand, to go along with the airport shutting down and no airplanes being allowed to take off nationwide, we have been in contact with military aircraft in the area that are enforcing a complete no-fly zone. Once we land, we will not be allowed to take back off. So as aircraft are removed from the area, none will be allowed back in.
That's understandable. Langley Air Force Base, all the Air Force bases you can imagine are on high alert. Possibly, I don't know if anybody's, we're not hearing that. We're trying to get the beat on whether the military and to what aspect the military has been and is taking action about this. Again, not a confirmation per se, but it's hard to imagine that this is anything but a terrorist attack. We're getting some information here.
Just the timeline of the events, but let's stay with what you're looking at, if we could, as a live picture of what is left of the Manhattan skyline. Jim, I want to bring you back in because we have reports that there are United States fighter jets cruising the area over New Jersey. Can you confirm that?
Yes, we can. Our pilot has been in contact with some F-16 fighters that have been in the area. We do not know exactly what they'll be doing at this time. As we mentioned earlier, they are removing all aircraft within the region and enforcing a complete no-fly zone over Manhattan.
All right, Jim. Just got a word. I want to go ahead and reiterate that all off-duty firefighters have been ordered to report to duty. All off-duty firefighters have been ordered to report to duty, and you can understand why. I don't imagine there would be a firefighter out there who wouldn't want to come and assist the hundreds, thousands of people who are affected by this incredible national tragedy. You're looking live, ladies and gentlemen, at Chopper 2 at what is the aftermath of both World Trade Center towers having collapsed. Both towers have collapsed. 40,000 people worked at World Trade Center, not to mention the entire financial district down there. It was, and in the process of being evacuated, hopefully thousands of people were able to get out of that lower Manhattanville area. But you got to imagine, Michael, all the people who live there, all the people who work there, the children who go to school there, the children who are in daycare there, the support staff, doctors, of course, and the hospitals in the area are going to be inundated. This is something that you and I never, ever expected to see.
Sadly, we've had to bring you these pictures live as the situation across the country right now continues to develop. And we should tell you, if you're trying to get into the city, nothing is open, as would be obvious. However, I know there are parents out there who are concerned about their children. Again, word from the schools that the children in that area are okay. Of course, the schools are on lockdown. The children will not be released without their parents being there to pick them up. As you look live at the scene from Chopper 2 at what's left of the Manhattan skyline, just a smoky blur from New York Harbor. The two largest
every building covered in smoke.
Landmarks, both the World Trade Center towers collapsing. Not very long ago at all. The first instance that we had was the plane crash just before 9 into the first tower, a second crash into the second tower 18 minutes later. Third blast brought down one tower, and then just moments ago, the second tower collapsed. Let's go back to Cindy Shoes in the newsroom for another update.
You look at the second tower collapsing right there on the left side of your screen. Cindy, take it away.
All right, Michael Mace, I'm just watching. This is so hard to watch. New Jersey Transit has canceled all their transit that they're having right now. I'm talking about school. Stuyvesant School is being used for triage. Again, Stuyvesant School used for triage. And we do have information on the first plane that went into the World Trade Center. It was the American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to L.A. American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to L.A., which is believed to have been hijacked. They are also evacuating City Hall right now. And New Jersey is under heightened state of alert. So that's all we have now from the newsroom.
I should reiterate that the president was in Florida at the time of all of this, continues to be in Florida, reading to children, we're told. When his aides came in and told him just what happened, he did come into the country so very briefly, just moments after 9 o'clock, after the second explosion, saying only that the government, and clearly it's an obvious remark at the time, didn't know how obvious it would be that the government is going to be investigating this, as they're sure they have been from the moment this began to unfold, and that the full weight of the federal government would be behind the victims and their families.
Got to bring in also, Michael, this is primary day, and we're waiting on a report from the governor to make a decision about the primary day elections, whether they're going to be counted or whether they were going to postpone and reschedule primary day elections.
The governor rather happening to be in Manhattan, we understand today. We have not received word, other than we had been told that the president said that he had spoken with Governor Pataki as well as Mayor Giuliani, so we assume that they are okay, though we ourselves have not heard official word from the mayor and from the governor, though we do expect to hear shortly, if it's at all possible, that they can update the city as to what's happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, we're going to do a recap of this incredible, catastrophic event that has happened and is affecting not only Lower Manhattan, but all of the entire country and the world. We have had a plane crash into the tower of World Trade Center number 1. That plane has been identified as an American Airlines 757, flight number 11, from Boston on its way to L.A. that had been hijacked and went into and crashed into World Trade Center Tower number 1 shortly before 9 a.m. this morning. A second airplane, unbelievably, crashed into the second tower of the World Trade Center shortly after, about 18 minutes after 9. And then President Bush made his comment. He called it an apparent terrorist attack. Shortly after that, ladies and gentlemen, we understood that an aircraft crashed into the Pentagon in Washington about an hour after the attacks in New York. And then shortly after 10 o'clock this morning, World Trade Center Tower number 1 collapsed, and then at 10:30, World Trade Center Tower number 2 collapsed.
One of the stories we're also staying on top of for you is that we had received word that there was an unidentified aircraft that was now approaching an airport somewhere in northern Virginia. All we know is that the plane is unidentified. Now, as we told you earlier, the FAA has shut down all aircraft takeoffs nationwide. All inbound international flights have been diverted to Canada. And as we continue to wait for word on this developing story, as we told you, that unidentified plane flying to one airport, we're not told which one, somewhere in northern Virginia, we can only reiterate the developments that have happened at this point.
Speaking of developments, Michael, I can't admit what happened in Washington, D.C. beside the explosion of the plane going into the Pentagon. We heard earlier that there was an explosion at Capitol Hill. We're relieved to say that it did not exist, that did not happen. There was no explosion at Capitol Hill, but we did hear reports earlier that there was a fire at the very popular Washington Mall in Washington, D.C. Cindy Hsu is in our newsroom. She's keeping up abreast of late-breaking details. Cindy.
Okay, Lisa, we're hearing, I'm sure a lot of people are making calls down to friends, Lower Manhattan. The phones in the city are overloaded. Do not be surprised if you cannot get through. We're having a lot of trouble on the phone lines. We have an update on the school. Now listen carefully. PS and IS 89 and PS 234. The students there are being walked to PS 41 at 116 West 11th Street. Let me say that again. PS and IS 89 and students from PS 234 are being walked to PS 41, which is located at 116 West 11th. We also have PS 150. The students from PS 150 are being walked to PS 3, and that's located at Christopher and Hudson. PS 150, the students there are being walked to PS 3 at Christopher and Hudson, and that's where parents can pick up the kids. And Stuyvesant High School is being used for triage right now.
Okay, Cindy, thank you. Let's go to Rose Walia. Rose, live at Bellevue Hospital. What can you tell us?
Well, we just had an update just a moment ago. There are about 100 people inside of the command center of Bellevue Hospital right now working on patients. We're told there are 8 patients here right now. One of those patients is DOA. They have closed the hospital down to all patients except for those being brought from this tragic incident from Lower Manhattan. They say they have the ability to triage hundreds of patients here, but they say they have never had a disaster like this, so they will really be testing their mettle under these circumstances. And they have called all
Rose,
staff,
we hate to
all
interrupt
doctors,
you.
all nurses, all aides. Everyone has been called into the...
We hate to interrupt you. We've just been told
A fourth explosion. Now in the area of the World Trade Centers. Obviously, neither tower is still standing. We don't know the source of this fourth explosion. But we do have Cindy Hsu in the newsroom. Perhaps she can shed a little light on the world and clearly untold number of people that are down there right now.
Yeah.
And this is as close as we can get to the scene. Jim Smith, you're about, what, 5 miles?
Yeah, that's right, Michael. We're about 5 to 6 miles away. We've been forced to move. Oh, Michael, we have seen the entire lower half of Manhattan just completely covered in smoke, debris, dust, everything well south of Canal Street is just completely and covered in this smoke and dust at this time.
The casualties here are far, we don't even want to speculate.
No,
we do have
can't.
reporters at St. Vincent's, at Bellevue, throughout the city, crews throughout the city. We know that you're worried about your loved ones down there. This is the financial district.
There is not anything recognizable of what were the 2 trade towers, nothing standing out from those clouds of dust at this time.
My goodness.
We understand the schools in the area reporting that the children who were there, at last report, the children were safe. They're saying that the parents, if you can get there, and in this, frankly, it'd be quite difficult. The schools are under a lockdown. The children are not allowed to leave unless the parents come to get them. But we have heard word that the children are okay.